Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, you guys, for all you do for all of us in the community. It's great. This is a great group, and the work that you do is really, really appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And Commissioner Sorensen, unfortunately, will not be here. I guess you've heard there's been a little bit of an issue. He's knee-deep in it, as it were. So we're going to have some questions addressed, not all of them tonight, by representatives. From FLPD, we have none other than the illustrious Chief Maglione, Captain Dotson, and Captain Selfo. All right. Thank you all for being here, for your service to the community. We're going to hear from the chief in a few minutes. From Representative Chip Lamarca's office, we have Eileen Lamarca and Samantha Berner. Thank you very much for being here. From the Chief Financial Officer's office, and that is Patronis, we have Aaron Richmond here. Thank you very much for being here. Assistant City Manager Hal Barnes, his compatriots Angela and Keith, thank you. We could not do this without you every month. Thank you for all you do. Vice Mayor of Oakland Park, none other than Jane Bolin. You'll hear a little bit more from her a little bit later. We're fabulous, Sister City. Thank you for being here. So we also, the mayor was here, Scott Wyman was here. Who else?
Commissioner McKenzie.
Commissioner McKenzie was here as well.
Right.
Who else have I forgotten that is a city official or an elected official?
On Stavell.
Juan?
Juan is here from Ben's
Juan,
office.
yes, please, Juan. Yeah.
Alex is here. She's new. Alex, stand up and say hi.
Thank you.
She's new from Ben's office.
All right, so I think we're good, and there are a number of significant leaders in the community here. When we get to the year review, we're going to talk about that a little more. With that, I thank you all for being here. Blessings for the rest of the year. If we don't see you, happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year, for those that have to depart. With that, can I hand it over to you, Stan, for roll call?
Okay. Bell Harbor Homeowners Association. Bermuda Riviera Association.
Here.
Beverly Heights Neighborhood Association. Birch Park Homeowners Association. Central Beach Alliance.
Here.
Coley Hammock. We skipped one, I'm sorry. Coral Ridge Country Club of the States.
Here.
Coral Ridge Association.
Right here.
Coral Ridge Isles Homeowners Association. Crescent Park Civic Association. Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association, yes. Edgewood Civic Association. Flagler Village, yes.
Here.
Galt Mile Community Association. Harbordale Civic Association. Harbor Beach Property Owners. Harbor Inlet Association.
Here.
Historic Dorsey Riverbend.
Here.
Home Beautiful Park Civic Association.
Here.
Idlewild Improvement Association. Imperial Point Association.
Yeah.
Lake Ridge Civic Association.
Here.
Wow. Landings Residential Association. Lauderdale Beach Homeowners Association. Lauderdale Isles Civic Association.
Here.
Lauderdale Harbors Improvement Association.
Here.
Lauderdale Manors Homeowners Association.
Here.
Melrose Manors Homeowners Association.
Here.
Middle River Terrace Neighborhood.
Here.
Nurmi Isles Homeowners Association.
Here.
Poinsettia Heights Civic Association.
Here.
Poinciana Park Civic Association. Was there somebody that's here? That's Progresso Village.
Here.
Rio Vista Civic Association,
Present.
River Garden Sweeting Estate,
Here.
Riverland Preservation Society, River Oaks Civic Association,
Here.
Riverside Park Residents Association,
Here.
Rock Island Community, Sailboat Bend, Seven Isles Civic Association, Shady Bank Civic Association,
Here.
Sunrise Intercoastal Homeowners Association,
Present.
South Middle River Civic Association,
Here.
Tarpon River Civic Association, Victoria Park Civic Association.
Here.
And if you'll indulge me for 1 second, I may have missed a couple, so let me just repeat a couple to make sure I got it right. Central Beach Alliance,
Here.
okay. Coley Hammock Homeowners Association. And Coral Ridge Country Club Estates.
He's here.
Okay.
Again.
Who did you not, River Oaks. Did you hear River Oaks? They're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we have a quorum. Thank you very much. All right, so announcements really quickly. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Beginning back in August, it's being recorded. There are some conversations that are being recorded. Just reminding you that these meetings are recorded, okay? Does anybody not have a raffle ticket? If you don't, please come up and get one so you can put your choice of what you want in the bag. We've got some fantastic giveaways. So if you don't already have a raffle ticket, you haven't put one in your choice of a basket, please come on up and get it later.
Make sure you put it in a bag that's labeled for what you want. That's how it works.
Right, Chinese raffle. Okay. Some sad news. Ron Centimore was the former president of this council. He passed away last year around this time. His wife passed away last week. So Kim Centimore, although she was not directly affiliated with city work advisory councils, she helped launch the CERT. She worked with the CERT group for over 20 years. She was very active working with the homeless, worked extensively with Broward Partnership, and she was a very, very kind, compassionate, had a social worker background. Details for her memorial and mass are being passed around. It's next Friday and Saturday. So,
This Friday and Saturday. This Friday and Saturday now.
yes, this Friday and
Madam
Saturday.
President.
Thank you.
Madam President.
So, if we could just make sure folks get that information. Yeah, memorial service is Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. in Wilton Manors. The mass is at St. Anthony's on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Okay, what's next on the agenda? Okay, review and acceptance of the general membership minutes from last month. Motion? Moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, wonderful. Treasurer's report?
Okay, treasurer's report. We have, currently, in our checking account, we have $6,135.37, and we have a CD. A while back, we thought it was a good idea to put some money in a CD so we'll earn interest, and there's $5,074.87. And I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we're coming into a new year, and when the dues are due, you now have the option of using PayPal. So you don't necessarily have to write a check. For some associations, that might be a better, more efficient way of paying the annual $50 dues. So keep that in mind. PayPal, we do accept it. We don't accept credit cards at this time. That's about it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Motion to accept treasurer's report? Thank you.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, great. Chief Magliani, we're not going to do crime stats this month. We're going to do sort of a short and sweet, wonderful, inspiring year in review from the criminal justice law enforcement standpoint, from none other than the glorious Chief Magliani.
Very quickly, when you guys were calling roll, I actually felt like we could say here to every civic association, every homeowner association, because we're at all of it, and we're part of every neighborhood. I hope you see all our officers at all of your meetings, and all of your needs are met. We try to make as many events that we can, especially this time of year. It gets very, very busy, and we go from one to the other, but we definitely are partners in everything we do. I love the relationships that we're building and that we're strengthening, and the results are good. The Part 1 crimes, the ones we always talk about, you know, the crime rate, as everybody or most people know, 2018, which is the last year we had the full year numbers for, was the lowest citywide crime rate we've ever had in this city since we've been keeping those numbers back in the 70s. That's huge. We also understand, though, that's not the only crime that affects people. We know we have some issues, for example, at the hotel at 3031 West Commercial right now that we are all over. But those are the numbers that don't show up on the map, the narcotics complaints, the disturbances. And we also know there's those quality of life issues that aren't necessarily crime, but you count on us for too, because perception of safety is just as important as actual safety. Those are a little more difficult to deal with when it comes to homelessness and traffic congestion and graffiti. You know, none of those really affect folks' safety pertaining to crime. But they're factors that we deal with, we're partners in, we work together on it. In fact, Wallet Hub once again put out a study, I don't know if you guys saw it, and they said we were the 181st least safe city out of 182. You know, and you got to look at those numbers. One, if they would have done it out of the top 10,000 cities, everybody's saying, look how great we did. But they did 182 cities. But almost nothing had to do with crime in there. If you looked at it, it's people with pension plans and the potential for a hurricane to come through. I mean, so many things they put in there on what they factored into the safest city. Crime almost had very little to do with it. And we looked, and our crime rate is lower than almost every other city ranked above us on the study. So please recognize the difference between news and noise, and that's noise, because it's not accurate. We've done a lot of things this year, and the things that worked out well, we're going to continue to expand on. We filled all our vacant seats in the police department. Right now we have 2, and that's normal due to retirements. You know, if someone leaves, we have to hire a new one. But if you remember, you know, 2 years ago we had 50. We hired 91 police officers in the last little over 2 years. The diversity in our police department is through the roof. About 60-something, 70% of all new hires are minorities and women. Our promotions of minorities and women, because we need a very diverse group in our leadership roles, is about the same with our civilian population. The promotions are about 90% minorities and women. So we're really trying to reflect the community that we serve, and I think that helps build relationships and understandings between each other. We've done a lot of neat things this year. We've continued the Ring initiative and the Neighbors app, and I hope folks have found some value in that. We sure have. We've expanded the license plate, automatic license plate readers throughout the city, and we keep putting more out there when we can, and they're phenomenal crime-fighting tools. And we've done some little things that I don't know if any of you noticed, but they were intended for like more intimate encounters. In fact, we even turned down an offer from the news to do a story on something, and we have the umbrella program. Did anybody ever hear of it, or anybody ever see any of those blue umbrellas out there in the street? The way that started was I was coming back from lunch one day, and I had my daughter in the car, and it started pouring, and there was a couple sitting on a bus bench on Federal Highway, and it just unloaded on them. And you know, he put his newspaper over her head, and they were just getting poured on. I said to my 10-year-old, I go, God, I wish I had an umbrella to give them, but I don't carry one. So when we got back to the station, I got Captain Dotson. I go, order us some umbrellas. So we ordered, what, 300? Yes. 300 umbrellas, and they weren't to give away at recruiting events or, you know, fish fries that we do or any career days. I wanted the officers all to carry some around, and when they saw someone caught in a bad situation, I said, hey, give them an umbrella. So I don't know if anybody's seen them out there, but you get caught in the rain, don't be surprised when an officer doesn't pull over, walk up to you, open it up and go, this is for you, you look like you'd use it, and just drive away. So, it's, you know, and a little other thing, there's 300 umbrellas out there with our patch on it. So, a little silent marketing too, but I know one of the prizes there is, this thing is recorded, so coffee with the city manager, right? Someone can win that. I'll make this offer. If anybody wants to have coffee with me, just call me and I'll meet you. I love coffee. So you don't even have to win it. I'm not as big of a deal as the city manager, but I'll meet you anywhere, anytime to have coffee. And those of you that know me know I try to do that, so. Thank you for all your support. This is your police department and we're your neighbors too, so.
Thank you.
The last thing I'll mention for the folks in Middle River Terrace, I know the Annie Beck house was discussed. An officer is scheduled to move in there. We don't have the person yet. We put it out to see who would be interested in moving in. They had to do some things to make the house livable, like put a shower in. You know, it didn't have one. It was set up more as a public type area. So they had to do some repairs and put a shower in so someone can live in there. We had about a dozen people said they were interested in moving in there. The agreement is getting finalized, and then we're going to just randomly draw. So you're going to have a police officer living in that park all the time. And we're going to secure those gates at night as well too. So there's very little activity going on in that park right now, but there'll be even less, because I don't think anybody wants to do anything wrong in a cop's backyard.
That is
Yeah, it's
awesome.
going to work out. So anything you need from us, you know where to reach us, 911 if it's really important. If not, just call the non-emergency number, or you have all your district captains' contact numbers. I think most people have my cell phone number, who knows how to get it. Happy holidays, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome. Any back house is a historic house. It's in a park. There was a murder at that park last year. We added lights, we added cameras. I shouldn't say we, FLPD and the city. And now that house is being retrofitted and renovated for residents. It's a small little one-bedroom. So law enforcement is going to take residents there. It's huge. And what a great activation of a historic asset in our community. So thank you, Chief. That's absolutely wonderful. Next on the agenda is the President's report. All right, so before we go over that, if we could...
I think we should take the agenda out of order and take the guests first.
Thank you very much for your input. I'm going to do the President's report real quick. It'll take 5 minutes. If you could put that up. I would first like to acknowledge the Board of Directors of the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations. If each of you could stand, I just want to make it clear, we're not doing this alone. This is an entire team, even with the hat. Please stand. I would like all to acknowledge this wonderful Board of Directors. Say your name and your position.
Jim Concan, and I guess I'm the acting treasurer right now. And District 1 representative.
Kathy Stowe, District 3 representative.
Kelly Manning, District 4 representative.
I'm Michael Albett, I'm District 2 representative, and I am the president of Lakewood Civic Association.
Stan Eichelbaum, First Vice President, Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association.
Mary Peliquin, Christmas Head, Corresponding Secretary, and I'm the President of the Coral Ridge Association.
And I'm Christina Curry. I'm the recording secretary and the president of the Rio Vista Civic Association.
Dennis Olmer, Chair of Committee.
And former board members, outgoing board members, Debbie Rosenbaum and Bruce E. Cummings. Just want to acknowledge you. The food tonight, organization and distribution with the support of others. Thanks to Debbie, our outgoing second VP. So thank you to Debbie as well. Stay standing for a second, board members. Anyone else that's an HOA president or officer of your HOA or civic association, please stand. Luis, that's you.
Well, I'm ready to go.
No, go. Anyone else that is serving their community in any other capacity? Eileen, Samantha, please stand. Jane? The saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Thank you all for your service to your community and being wonderful volunteers for this wonderful city. Thank you all very much. All right, so really quick, I don't know if you can see this, but this is the year in review. It's a very quick, we have high-level goals. What is the goal of the council? The council is to increase and engage the participation of this council so that we can better represent the interests of our members to the city administration. So that's kind of high-level, dry goals. Ultimately, underneath that, what we want to do is be the vehicle for elevated discourse. The idea is we can be a productive impact on city change if we're collectively working and interacting together in a meaningful way. And that's residents, that's businesses, and that's city administration. We had enormously wonderful results last year. Many new members of the board brought vision and new leadership to the council. You can see that many of our directors are also holding other advisory board roles. You can just see the list. Many members have multiple advisory board roles. There was a wonderful conversation with the city manager at the beginning of the year where we talked about where the city was headed. There was a new set of officers. The city manager had just recently started. What was going on with the city, where were we headed? It was a wonderful conversation. And later in the year, he had a more detailed conversation with us about the budget. We don't always hear in detail about the city budget, but he's been a wonderful supporter and presenter on a regular basis. First ever joint meeting with the city commission, the entire contingent, the commissioners and the mayor and the board of directors of the council. We had a planning discussion. It was a wonderful conversation back in April. That's going to be an annual thing. We have to reschedule it for the following year. We had obviously lots and lots of conversations about the outsourcing of part of TAM to MPO, the interlocal agreement, so that you all probably know about that. We had several conversations, a Q&A. Ultimately, that agreement was inked, and we now have part of our transportation needs being met and served by the county metropolitan planning organization. We had some caveats in there that were in part met. We had a wonderful session on the education, what's going on in the education space. The chairman of the board for the school district, the chief education officer from the city, we had a recruiter from Broward College. That was a fantastic conversation, sorry. What else? Interesting changes of bylaws. I mean, many of our civic associations were mandated to do that. It's not always the funnest exercise, but there were meaningful changes to our bylaws this year. Took official position statements on the following: the parks and police bonds, which we both endorsed, the MPO, the Sun Trolley Tree Preservation, the comp plan, and House Bill 987 in its companion bill. Big element this year was drilling down onto district-specific interest and focus. You heard from our board, they are district representatives for each of our districts. So we are compiling questions and providing feedback to the city on district input. So we welcome and look forward to that being an even increased emphasis for the following coming year. We had wonderful out of City Hall experiences at MODS, at NSU Art Museum, and took tours of the police department. Technology advances. The council is now in the 21st century. We now accept membership payments other than by check or cash. That's amazing. The YouTube channel for the council was established, and the meetings are now recorded. That is largely thanks to, or entirely thanks to, Christina. And this is just a list of speakers we had in the last year. Pretty remarkable, impressive. And we now are to the point where most of the times the monthly agenda is pretty full. So if you want to get booked to speak at the council, book early, because it's become a place to be heard and to be seen and to help inform the rest of the community. That's my update in its entirety. Are there any of the speakers after that? That was it. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
What a year.
Very nice.
All right. So it felt like a productive year, right?
Yes,
Yes.
it was.
Thank you all. All right, so it's now my distinct pleasure to introduce our one and only speaker for tonight. So Commissioner Sorensen is not able to be here. We do have someone else coming to talk about the noise abatement at the airport. But Jane Bolin, I think all of you know who she is, but just so I can tell you a little bit more about her. She's the Vice Mayor of Oakland Park. She's the founder and managing attorney for Peyton Bolin. She's the founder of Janelle Title. And two little fun facts that you may not know about her is that she's a former rugby player, and she was the first female player of a professional football team.
Wow.
A culinary producer on both Master and Top Chef. She's here tonight because she wrote a book. She wrote a book that's relevant to all of us. It's called Mastering the Business of Your Association. What better topic to end the year on with a subject matter expert? She's offered to raffle off a book or two or three or four. I don't know for sure how many. With that, please help me welcome Jane. Yay! All right. So,
meeting all of your speakers. I was honored to be invited anyways, but this is really remarkable, and what an accomplishment for the city to have this kind of turnout. I'm actually a little bit envious. So, just one correction to the bio. I was on the first women's professional football league. So that's what I did in '99. I was a linebacker. Yeah! Out of the NFL team, just in case you Google that and wonder, Drew James. Okay, so I was delighted to come here. Really, the audience, as I understand, is a mix of civic associations and leaders in their community associations, condos, and HOAs. So, a little background about me. When I came down here for law school, I was in my, I went to St. Thomas University. I was in my first year, and I was clerking for a law firm. And they gave me a case against a developer, their attorney, and the association. And I was like, And it was really one of these cases where they didn't really want to do much with it. They said, take the lead. So I took the lead, and I really delved into the condominium statute, which is 718. And I ran that case essentially for the partner, and I looked at him about 6 months in. I said, I think I can do this better than the management company. And he said, that's really ambitious of you, Jane. I said, no, really, I think I can do this. You should cut me a check for 20 grand and I'll start a business. And he said, okay. And I was like, great. So by the second year of law school, I started Foundation Property Services. So we were a community association management company. I was literally learning, sort of cutting my teeth on that when I was in law school. And what gave me really great perspective is, the law plus actually how do you implement? Because I really consider myself a bit of an entrepreneur, and I look at things a little bit differently. So that's my background. And as I was going through law school, I started picking up clients, and then by 2010, I sold the company. So I learned a lot on the way, though, and this is what I want to share, because community association law, governance is really, I would say, my bailiwick as an attorney. And what I learned is there's a context that everyone can take to coming to a board. And I think this runs, if you're on an HOA board, a condo board, a civic association board, even sometimes a charity board, nonprofit. So generally we all get on these boards and we're either representing, or we have an agenda, or we have something that is really important to us and our citizens, residents, neighborhood, like that. And that's important. But mostly if you listen to boards, and clearly it's not this board, okay? But mostly you hear about how awful the board experience is, right? Nobody wants to be on the board. It's awful, people fight, things are happening. And I was with really one of our better clients, looking at them wondering, why is it that they can have a board meeting, disagree, walk away, and everything's fine? Whereas I've been to other meetings and we have to have security there, or people actually go to blows, right? It's really unbelievable. And I think one of there's sort of three things I want to make sure I get across tonight is context is decisive, is the first one. And so when you come onto the board, really on the onboarding process, I look at it like saying, you are not just a volunteer, you are actually a professional. So really shifting that. And in your day jobs, you're all professionals doing something. But what happens is you get to these meetings at 7 o'clock at night and everyone's like tired and professional isn't out the door. And you're wondering what happened? How's that possible? So I think really reinstating sort of that context. And that's why my book is called Mastering the Business of Your Association. If you start to look at it, it's a not-for-profit business. That's what you're running. You may have $5,000 budget, you might have a $5 million budget. You might have the ability to especially assess, take preserve. I mean, you're a fiduciary. That's really the truth of it. And so I think if you look at it, not run it like a business, but just get the context that you're running a business. It's a not-for-profit association, and you're not always going to agree with your board of directors. And it's okay not to agree. And your decision doesn't mean it's the best business decision for an association. Everyone has the right to have their decision. It's in the best interest of the association, but it's totally subjective, right? So context is decisive. The second thing I think is really, really important is that you think about what's the rhythm of your organization. So this applies across the board. You guys clearly have a rhythm. You have an annual meeting, you have an election, but then if you're in an HOA or condo, you have other things that you must meet. You have financial reporting requirements, you must have elections, you have annual reports that you have to do to the state. There is actually a rhythm, and I say all of this because how do you keep and retain and find new board members? Well, you got to show them the way. It's like if you really understand that you're coming onto a business board, there has to be sort of an outline, right? So it's not just show up every month, get the report either from your management company, get your past meeting minutes. There's a rhythm to the year. Think about that. There's a rhythm to every year, and your fiscal year might be different. It might be January to December, it might be July 1 on, right? But you just want to look at what's the rhythm of this board, and I would actually challenge you to look at that. What is the rhythm of the board? And inside of that, especially at this time of year, the strategic plan is so critical. So what you just did, I loved it, to really look at what are your goals, and then who's responsible inside of those, and create your plan. There's not a single business that's very successful that doesn't take the time to do strategic planning. And inside of that strategic planning, what they're looking at is their business rhythm. And inside of those discussions, they certainly have the context that it's not personal, right? It's about data-driven, generally, metrics that take you to a result, right? So if you guys think about that, and actually I suggest to my clients in HOAs and condos that they take one meeting and have it at least be their strategic meeting. Because if you don't have aligned goal and vision, you guys are just coming to meetings, right? And you just go from meeting to meeting, and what you're doing is proverbially putting out fires. Somebody had a complaint, something happened, so then that's all you're dealing with, versus accomplishing a much larger goal that really does inspire everyone when you get there. I mean, it really, you're left with such a feeling of accomplishment that yeah, of course I want to be on this board, of course I'd be there. So that's the second point. And then the third point, very simple, is the succession planning is critical. And to do that, you actually need to document your roles. So I think boards sometimes get demystified by minutes. We think we have it all in the minutes. If you were my client, I tell you, please do not have your minutes look like a transcript, because in the HOA condo world, that's not a good thing. We don't want to know everyone's opinion. We want to know motion, who seconded it, what the action was, the vote, and we're done, right? The opinions don't help us in those situations. Perhaps in a civic association, you want to have some more depth to the meeting minutes, so you can use that almost like a history. But I would say to you, it's more than just the minutes. So every district, and this is off the fly right here, watching the way you guys operate, every district could actually have like a historical running tally of what it is you're doing. So you know better in your district which associations are yours, which ones have stronger boards, which ones don't, which may need some support, which ones would, you just get comfortable. You're gonna understand it. Now, certainly residents change, things change, but I would really say, memorializing your roles is critical. So the president's role, exactly what the president's going to be doing at any given time, not just running the meeting, but what are they responsible for? Do you expect them to be at commission meetings? Do you expect them to be, actually the spokesperson for the civic association? The recording secretary's role, what is their role? Is she available to provide documents if somebody has a question, or how do you actually get records? Usually has to be open, and incidentally, even as a civic association, you'd be subject to 617, the not-for-profit statute, so it's important to know that. The treasurer certainly has a role, right? And in this situation, where are the bank accounts, who are the signatories, those kind of things. And then in each district, what would you be doing? So I would really challenge you, I don't know if you're doing all these things now, but I would challenge you to take a look at it, to really look at what is the context that you hold for yourselves as a group of volunteers who are working very hard to represent all the residents of Fort Lauderdale. What does that look like? What is your succession plan? What's the rhythm of this group? What's your strategic plan? And that strategic plan, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. You don't need to hire a facilitator. You can actually just sit down and create the goals, make them SMART goals, very simple, measurable, accountable, etc. I mean, you can do that, and you can do it all yourselves at a meeting. And I think the issue that people have about being engaged, now, as much as I love coming in thinking, wow, this is amazing camaraderie, and everybody brought all this food, awesome, you've been doing this for 15 years, it's great. And by the way, I saw Dean Trentalis on the way out, the mayor, and he was like, oh, Jane, you're going to love the food. I mean, that's what he said. Right? It's like, I'm not here to eat, but this is going to be great. That you have that kind of culture is awesome. But really what incites people to make a difference is them actually knowing they've made a difference. And the only way to do that is to have something like every president does a year review. And we think that of course they're going to do that, until they don't. And you watch the numbers dwindle, and you guys are wondering what's just happening, why is this all happening? And it eludes you, right? So I would really suggest you take a look at it. My book it's on Amazon. It's like this big. It really is just my story of starting my business and understanding what the best practices are for associations to run themselves from a governance point of view. So that's really what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. And I'm an attorney. I can't give you legal advice, but if you have a question, I'm happy to answer it.
That was awesome.
Anything?
That was awesome.
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions?
No question.
So when would you recommend purchase of liability insurance for a civic association?
Immediately. I wouldn't be on any single board unless the board had D&O insurance. It, in fact, should be what you purchase. You need to be protected. This is the reality for the lawyers in the room. You all know this. We're a litigious society. Whether you did it right or wrong, people will file a lawsuit, and it doesn't matter that it's frivolous. They will do it. So you need to get directors and officers insurance, no matter what, 100%. And if you do things in the community, second thing on insurance, you guys are actually physically doing things in the community. So like with an HOA or condo, if I have boards that want to change light bulbs or pick up the mulch, stuff like that, I also suggest workers' comp. I mean, it's just, it's so inexpensive to protect you. Yes?
Does that include homeowners associations that don't have any employees, that don't, I mean, they're just homes?
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, I really wouldn't suggest actually volunteering on any board until you see their bylaws and their directors and officers insurance policy. I mean, just because, even if they say they're going to indemnify you in those bylaws, if they don't have D&O insurance, everyone's looking around for how are we paying for this. You really just have to have it. It's not very expensive. It's generally less than $1,000 a year. Less than $1,000 generally.
$800-900 bucks.
Well, we can talk about insurance agents after this. Yeah.
Michael had a question?
She just answered my question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna ask her the cost.
generally, that's what I see. Yeah.
Mr. Concan?
I don't have a question.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Yes.
We have the insurance, but there's also supposed to be a state law indemnifying community or volunteer organizations.
Yeah.
Well, what does that kick in? What does that do?
Indemnity just means that the organization as a business entity would be responsible for protecting you, but if you don't have the actual money in the bank, we all know a lawyer's fee is a lot more right off the... So even though you're legally indemnified, that means nothing in reality unless you've got the insurance policy to back it up. That's just that's the straight facts for me. Yes.
But just to be clear, I mean, most of us here belong to a neighborhood civic association. The dues are voluntary. We're not talking about, you're really talking about a HOA in which people are on the hook in the neighborhood to pay an annual dues and so forth.
So my suggestion, distinctly, I will just, absolutely, HOA condo, you 100% need to have it.
Right.
In a civic association, I get it's voluntary, but you still have bylaws. If you guys host a neighborhood picnic or something happens, I mean, I would be concerned.
Yeah, but just to be real, I mean, D&O insurance costs anywhere from $900 to $1,000. I mean,
Yep.
because I'm the president of a
Yep.
HOA,
Yep.
which there is
Exactly.
mandatory dues.
Yep.
I'm also a member of a neighborhood civic association. We don't collect that much dues on an annual basis to pay a D&O.
You could choose not to do that. I'm just saying, if you asked me, I wouldn't sit on a board without it. I would be a member of it, I would pay my dues and hang out, but I wouldn't actually be someone who is giving direction. That's just my opinion. You're certainly welcome to have it at one. Yes.
So I think where some of these people are going is the Volunteer Protection Act.
Yeah.
So so what you're saying is that the reason why you wouldn't do it is because of we know that you are shielded from liability
Yeah.
because of the Volunteer Protection Act, but because somebody could go after the funds of the organization,
Yeah.
I think that
They still
maybe
can sue
is
you.
not what is clear.
Yeah,
in
it's
this
not like Volunteer
conversation.
Protection Act isn't like sovereign immunity for cities. So unless you've got the insurance behind it, I think it's,
But you'd also be liable for the attorney fees to get to that.
yeah, 100%.
How many civic associations here have D&O insurance? So a lot. Okay.
Wow.
The council does not, so that will be, we'll take that up at the next board meeting. Yeah, don't trip on your way out, okay?
You're getting the city property now, and I think you guys are actually, are you chartered by the city?
Yes.
Yes?
You might want to ask your city attorney first.
No.
Yeah.
No, we're under
You
the
have
sunshine
protection.
law, so I don't think we are.
All right, I'm
Let me
gonna
find out. Let me look at.
Yeah.
We don't have this in Oakland Park, so
Okay,
we don't, nothing like this.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Other questions? Ms. Fanning?
So as a board member of the Civic Association,
Yep.
if something happened, like at a picnic or something, might that person come after you, like, individually, like your house and all that
So the
stuff?
thing is I would just say this is generally speaking, I mean, we're a litigious society, people will go
Because-
after anyone, anywhere, with anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
I think the point is, you may not get sued, or you may get sued, but you have to have an attorney represent you, and the D&O insurance is going to protect you in that capacity. It's going to cover that attorney fees, so you're not going to be responsible. Otherwise, you may have to pay the attorney fees
Yes, to
to
even
defend
just,
yourself.
yeah, even just to get it dismissed, you know?
Get it
So,
dismissed.
any other questions about governance or strategic planning or the rhythm of the, yes?
Sometimes people come to us as a civic association or come to some of us and ask about bylaws.
Yeah.
So do you have a source that you recommend that people go to as a good resource?
Standard, right.
Yeah.
For like template,
Yeah,
bylaws?
for a template, because, you know, questions just like,
Good
what is the
question.
standard? Who's, you know,
Yeah.
how much power does the board have versus a general membership type thing?
Yeah.
So that these are not customized from place to place
Yeah.
when they really.
So I really do customize those because I do a lot of bylaws, bylaw creation. So they are customized because you guys, every association operates differently. With condos and HOAs, I mean, you could literally look up the bylaws and use other ones as
Yeah.
templates. That's why I said, there's no sort of resource for
Yeah,
that. There's no
no.
standard, no, there's not, yeah. No, at least not that I'm aware of.
Right.
Yes.
Two quick questions. The first question was in regards to the errors and omission. Does it also represent the members, or is strictly just the board and the HOA?
Yeah, so-
Like the civic association?
I'm talking about directors and officers, and it's just the board members at that point.
Okay,
Yeah, it doesn't
so-
cover the members.
Okay, so as a member, what would be your recommendation in the event that you are active in that
Yeah,
association?
you don't need, you wouldn't need insurance because you're not making decisions on behalf of the membership, so you'd be okay. You could just be a member, yeah, that's no problem.
And you don't have to worry about that?
No, I don't
And
think
the
so.
second thing I wanted to ask in regards to the bylaws.
Yes.
I know we talked about that there's a lot of standard bylaws that are out there all over the internet.
Sure.
And my question would be specific to duration. We have a lot of the HOAs and the civic association that have a certain amount of time that they render at the beginning, like maybe every 2 years, you're having officers.
Yep.
And what if no one, I mean, I know you can write it in however you need to in your bylaws.
Yeah.
But is it a standard
No.
where officers can continue as long as they need to?
There's not a standard for that, so that's specific to the bylaws. You can do a rollover provision. If you're a civic association and you're not actually incorporated, there's no concern about your elections from my point of view. But if you are a not-for-profit organization filed with the state, an HOA or condo, if you have less than 3 board members, that's an issue. So, but with the civic association, I think you can just write in a rollover provision and you'd be fine. Yep.
Thank you.
This is really more of a question for you, Ms. Lockwood. How about this council go to a carrier, okay, and say, hey, we represent 50 associations, how about getting us, writing us E&O policies for each one of those?
Love it.
At a huge discount.
Right.
Potentially, because
Yeah.
it make a lot of
Yep.
sense,
Great idea.
individual ones. And, use the power of
Yeah.
both purchase.
Tried a few years ago.
And then it's a benefit to be a member.
What is your name and what neighborhood? Great.
Tim Hernandez with Coral Respect Club. And I think the ancillary benefit would be, maybe people who don't want to get involved would then get involved.
100%.
Great
That's a
idea.
great suggestion. Thank you very much. Love that. You know, you have 2 open board positions?
Very inspired at this point.
I didn't hear what you just said there.
So, just in closing, I want to thank you again for this opportunity. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year. I hope you have a great year, and I really appreciate it.
How many folks are going to raffle?
As many as you want me to.
Aww, that's great. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Jane, we were going to have Commissioner Sorensen pull some of the raffle prizes. Would you be willing to do that?
Of course, happy to do it.
All right. So drum roll, did everybody put in their raffle tickets?
She just gave me the ticket. Which one do you want to put it in?
Yours.
Oh, get out of here. All right. You want me to put one out of each?
Yeah, so just, announce the,
All right, here we go.
and now,
No one is winning this one. It's not it.
there's nothing in there?
No.
Okay, don't announce that, all right, guys.
Sorry. This is
Should have put it in that one.
the Buck and Beard Barbershop $100 gift card to Hadney.
Oh, Hadney.
Yes. All right.
And a t-shirt from Buck and Beard.
What neighborhood are you from?
Shady Banks.
Shady Banks.
Aggie, turn around, take a picture.
Oh, sure, okay. You should get it.
The one that doesn't have a beard, get that.
Okay. Oh, sure. Coffee with Ben Sorensen. Ooh. Okay. Where? From the Dorsey Bend neighborhood. Or maybe I didn't read this right. Yes?
There's one that have to be present to win. All right, she's from here?
She's still here? Where's the next one?
Going one way.
Jana Greg Williams from River Gardens. Not present to win?
Janet
I don't know what we're doing after that. It was right there. Exciting. Oh my goodness. This is really official.
Christina will, okay, got it.
Come on, Colleen, get in here.
Yeah, that's great, that's great, that's great.
You're the winner.
You're in the middle.
Oh, what a winner. Exciting. This one is for NSU Art Museum's gift basket.
Okay, read what's in there, read what's in there.
Contains 1-year family membership, 10 admission passes, happy coffee mug, and 2 catalogs. $300 value, $100 value, and
Whoa.
winner is Steve Buckingham.
That guy.
I love that. So funny, that's great, okay.
Thank you very much.
Here you go.
Milton Honey Restaurant, $20 gift card.
This is it right here, that's yours.
That's yours.
There's 2 $20 gift cards.
Oh, you want me to pull 2 names?
No, it's one. Do you have the?
Barbara McGill, Lauderhill.
Where did he go?
Wonderful, thank
Awesome,
you.
congrats.
Thank you.
All right, City of Fort Lauderdale goodie bag.
There's 3 of these.
Whoa, you want their names?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
In order, Melinda Parker. Eva Williams.
Eva Williams, where are you? She left. Okay, keep going.
Terry Nolan.
Yay!
And then Luis Castillo.
Yeah!
All right, 3.
I think those are, we're south of the river fix there, you know.
You guys
Get together in.
You look so beautiful, your hair, man. Ah. I got out of here.
Okay. Coffee with your city manager. Yeah. Tom Spelt. Imperial Publishing. Imperial, yes. Photo?
This time? You got a black present for the birthday.
You're welcome. All right.
Oh, I'll tell you what's in there. Yeah, my name is Marge Thompson. I'm the president of the Homes and Beautiful Park Association. I also work on contracts with the Fort Lauderdale Historical Society, which is also known as the Fort Lauderdale. And in there is 1-year family membership to the Historical Society, 2 historic prints, and 2 amazing books.
I'm just gonna put your name on it.
Michael Albetta.
I wanted that. I really wanted Thank you, I wanted that.
That's wonderful. We didn't pull raffle for your books, but we'll do that maybe next month. We'll do a separate raffle. Sure. That's wonderful. All right, thank you all who donated the raffle items. All right, cool. Congratulations to all the winners. Okay, so Commissioner Sorensen was going to be here and answer questions for his district, and for the noise abatement. Thank you, Commissioner Vice Mayor Bolin, absolutely wonderful. I'd like to invite Jeff Rames up. Jeff has worked with Commissioner Sorensen pretty extensively on the Noise Abatement Committee. He serves on the Broward County Airport Noise Abatement Committee, so in that capacity, he's spent a lot of time with Commissioner Sorensen. And he's also part of the Part 150 Study Technical Advisory Committee, so he's kind of an expert on airport noise. One of the questions that we got in was what's going on? What are we doing with that noise ordinance and the FAA, etc.? So Jeff has kindly agreed to join us tonight. He's got something up on the easel there, and we're going to hand it over to him. Please help me welcome Jeff.
I was going to offer to raffle off some airport noise in one of those bags. Thank you, Colleen. Merry Christmas to you. Ben called me this morning to discuss these couple of questions, and he called me at 4:45. He said, Jeff, I'm over at the sewer pipe leak. Could you come over and handle the questions for me? I've been involved in this issue since the very beginning, as other members of your group have been, and it all came about because they changed the headings on the north runway after they opened the south runway. That's how everybody's problem started. 18 months after the new runway was opened, the FAA says the Broward County can do what's called a Part 150 study. That's the big study you've heard about. It's a noise study. What that study does, it determines, number one, where the noise, objectionable noise is, and number two, what can be done about it. The question I was asked is, do we have the results of the Part 150 study? The study's not over yet, but for us, it is. What do I mean by that? I brought this graphic, and you can come up and take a look at it later. What the study does, it determines, this is a noise exposure map, and it determines where the objectionable noise level of 65 dB. It's an average noise level. It's a very complicated way that they figure it, but the bottom line is this. If you live within this green line right here on this contour, you have objectionable airport noise. 99% of you in here do not live within that green contour. What does that mean? It means the FAA will not do anything for you for the airport noise that you have over on the beach or that I have over in Lauderdale Isles in the southwest part of the city. Why? Because the FAA structures this whole thing. It's a 150-page document, how it has to be done. Broward County paid a consultant $2.5 million, 3 years to do the consultancy. Where they are now is they determine these contours. The FAA has just accepted these contours, so they're official. The next step is that they develop a noise compatibility plan. That's a plan for the people within the contours. You may have heard in the past how people in Dania got insulation for their roofs, got special windows, special air conditioning. If you live within there, you might get that. But I'm telling you again, 99% of the people in this room don't live within that area. The whole problem with this whole thing, since we started in the beginning, was we went to Mark Yale, the airport director, his predecessor, Kent George. We met with Lois Franco, who was our congresswoman at the time. What everybody was told, Tim Ryan, what everybody said is you got to wait for the Part 150 study. That's what we got, okay? And I've been involved in the whole thing. Every single one of these meetings that they've had, It's a waste of money and a waste of time in terms of real-world airport noise like you guys have over there, like I have over in my neighborhood here. Now, I'll get to these green dots in a second, okay? What we did back in April of last year, we had a meeting here, it was an airport noise meeting that Ben Sorensen called, and we developed what we called, at the time, our Phoenix solution. If you're familiar with this stuff, the city of Phoenix sued the FAA successfully a couple of years ago. Same situation as ours. The FAA came and they changed the flight patterns. They didn't have public meetings about it. They didn't tell people about it. They just changed them. Phoenix sued them. Phoenix was the first city to ever be successful in one of these cases. So what we did is we sat down with Ben and said, listen, this isn't going to work. We knew it wasn't going to work from the outset. Phoenix, what worked for them was taking the FAA to court. We went and sat down with Ben. We called it our Phoenix solution only because we named it after the city of Phoenix, what they did. It had 5 points real quickly. We wanted the city of Fort Lauderdale to hire the same law firm that the city of Phoenix used. They did that. They have them on retainer. The city commission allocated $175,000. They have been having consultations with Alan Bolo, the city attorney. We're not privy to those because there's lawyers talking, the lawyers are talking strategy, that kind of thing. But that's good, okay? Because what will happen down the road now is the FAA knows we mean business. The second thing we asked for is for the city to hire an airport noise consultant. Why? What we've discovered as we went along with this is that you can get very involved in the technical aspects. Just for me to explain what the 65 DNL contour means, how it's developed, would take me 5 minutes to explain to everybody, and I'd confuse myself as well as you when I did it. Okay? So we need an airport noise consultant to handle the technical aspects of this issue. That has been a problem. According to Ben this morning, it looks like they have one who's going to sign a contract with the city. Why is it a problem? All the airport noise consultants in the country, who's their biggest customer? The FAA. So, you know, if they want to come over on the other side of the table from Fort Lauderdale, the FAA is going to say, oh, you the guys who we had trouble with down in Florida. The third one is to assign a city employee full-time to the issue. Ben has assigned himself to that. He's immersed in this issue. He goes to all these meetings with me and our little committee. The fourth one was to have city officials come out and actually hear the airport noise. Ben came out to our neighborhood when we had southwest winds, and he heard it, and he says, yeah, I can't hear myself think either. Lastly, and I'll talk about this in a second some more, the city of Plantation has the same problem that my area of the city does. When the winds are from the west and the planes take off, they give them what's called a 290 heading, which is 15 degrees up from the runway heading when they take off. The southwest winds blow the planes even farther north, okay? And they end up over in here where you see those green dots. They're supposed to be on the south side of 595, okay? Until Miami Control takes over at 5 miles out and they're doing 250 miles an hour. Over here is Plantation. The fifth part of our Phoenix solution is that Plantation has the same problem as Southwest Fort Lauderdale has. Ben has gone to the mayor, the current mayor of the city of Plantation, numerous times, or commissioner over there. They just don't want to be bothered. Why? Because not enough of their citizens who do have the noise problem, because you can, those little green dots are noise complaints, actually groups of noise complaints. They have the problem, city of Plantation, but it would be a lot better if they teamed up with us on this. Why? Their congressperson is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Ours is Ted Deutsch. To have 2 congress people up there working on it instead of 1 doubles our chances. But anyway, the Plantation really isn't interested in that. So where we are with the Part 50, we're done. Study's not over. We're done. We're not going to get any help from it. Okay? And even the consultant that does it says that's true. He said that last night at a meeting I was at. The other question that Ben had was about NextGen. NextGen, or Metroplex, is the new system that the FAA is putting in place using high technology equipment in the planes. What it does is makes the highways in the sky for the planes denser. The planes can fly closer together because of the technology that they're using. Okay? But how does that affect us? The main thing is the highway in the sky for them, but how does it affect us? It affects us before the plane can get to the highway in the sky at 10,000 feet, he's got to take off. Metroplex is separate from the Part 150. They don't talk to one another. This is one of the screwy things about this. So we have this second fight, or second battle. However, the Metroplex guys now have started to get the message from down here that the way they originally set this up, they put a waypoint over Plantation, which meant all those planes, when they go to the west, we're going to turn right over Plantation. They're going to get clobbered worse than us. But they've listened now, and what we're hearing through the grapevine is they're in the midst of the environmental assessment that they do for Metroplex, for our area, and they're changing their minds about a couple of things. Why? Because Ben and I and a couple other guys pretty much hit their heads against the wall at a meeting that they had, a public meeting back in April. So Metroplex is on the way. The next thing that's going to happen with Metroplex is that they will release a environmental assessment in spring of 2020. That's their draft, and then they will have public meetings. You've heard about these workshops and stuff. If you're affected by airport noise at all, you need to go to these workshops. Okay? Why? Because you fill out a form, and they do take these forms to heart, the FAA. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, has anybody in here ever filed an airport noise complaint? Those of us who live in the bad airport noise areas, okay? The Broward County Aviation Division has a little app for your phone where you can file airport noise complaints. My neighborhood last year filed something like 10,000 of them. I can't remember the exact number, okay? This map, the green dot, the concentration of them, the more concentrated these green dots, the more airport noise complaints that have been filed, okay? Let's go back to the contours for a second. If you look closely at these contours, you don't see any complaints down there. Why? Because these contours encompass an area where hardly anybody lives. But that's where the FAA says the noise is. As we've worked on this, and we're going to go meet with Ted Deutsch, it was supposed to be by the end of the year, but now I believe it's in the beginning of January. Ben and our group. I went and met with Ted Deutsch one other time about this in the beginning of the year with an ex-air traffic control. Ted Deutsch's eyes were glassy in about 15 seconds after this guy talked to him, because he talked all the lingo, the Zappa, and all that stuff that they talk about with the air traffic control system. We said a long time ago, we said, we've got all these airport noise complaints, now we have the contours. There's got to be some way we can use them together, and a person in our group said, why don't I overlay the noise complaints on top of the contour map? That's how we ended up with this. What's the point? We go see Ted Deutsch and we say, look, the FAA says here's where the noise is. Look where all the complaints are. The FAA's information, their model doesn't agree with the real world. These are the people that are complaining here, and then of course down here, this is Daniel, affected by the south runway. This is Fort Lauderdale Plantation, and here you guys over on the beach, over here. I forget what each one of these dots stands for, how many complaints. They used to try to, it was a mess when they did it, they tried to put all the complaints under thousands and thousands. The point is, we go to Ted Deutsch, he can understand this, right? This is what the FAA says the noise problem is. What about all these people? You can't refute airport noise complaints, and that's why we encourage people all the time who are affected by the airport noise to do the airport noise complaints, because they're going to end up on here. You can't refute them. You know, people are sitting around, those of us who have the airport noise, you're sitting around watching TV and you don't say, well, there's nothing good on TV, so I'll file some airport noise complaints. You do it because you just looked out your back window and you could wave to that Southwest Airlines pilot because he's so low and he's making your whole house shake. They're the most important thing we can do is file those airport noise complaints. Lastly, we're not alone in this now. Not Phoenix one, there's about 8 other cities that are progressing like we are, okay? Minneapolis comes to mind because they're the one I read about recently, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. Same thing. What has happened is this. The Phoenix case, the judge said the FAA was arbitrary and capricious in when they set up these new patterns and didn't tell anybody about them, okay? That made the FAA listen because they lost. The FAA is listening now. In fact, a group of Congress people, their staff have gotten together and they're playing games now with the FAA on their appropriations, and they actually created a huge document. I just heard about it yesterday. I don't have a copy. And they're saying, you have to listen to local and regional groups, cities, counties, and take their input before you make any changes with these flight tracks anymore, okay? So what's going to happen if they don't? What they're saying to them is, you're not going to get all the money that you want next year in your appropriations bill. So we hope that's going to make them turn too. The last thing we want to do is go to court, but the city's ready to do it for us.
Okay, it's a great detailed summary. Thank you so much. Will you come back? Will you come back? Sure. All right, cool. There were some other questions that we had submitted for Commissioner Sorensen. I'll go through it really quickly.
Okay. So all of the questions that we had and the feedback that we collected in September, I gave those to Ben. He was going to cover them today, but since he couldn't be here, he wanted everybody that's in District 4 to know that they're invited to his District 4 leadership meeting on December 16th from noon to 1. It is here, and he'll cover everything, and you're always welcome to come and share your feedback with him. There was an email about vacation rentals. On the council website, you'll see 3 documents that he was going to go over. One of them shows all of the vacation rentals that are registered. It's 11 pages, so you can go through it and you can see what is registered in your neighborhood or if it needs any corrections on it. You can also see the enforcement status. So that'll tell you where the address is, if it's and what status it's at, if it's been reported to code. The other thing that you can see is
That's only for District 4?
it's only for District 4 because he's a District 4 commissioner. So if you want it, you can ask your commissioner, or I can ask Ben if he can help us, get it. The third thing that you'll see, this is a big one. So you'll see on this last column the balance due of fines. So some of these you'll see, $27,000, $119,000. Commissioner Sorensen wants you to know that these cases are in front of code and with the special magistrate, and the city is willing to move forward on the lawsuits, and they're all in the progress. If you have a specific question about one of these that are in your neighborhood, email Ben and he'll talk to you about it. He's also urging you, if you have a vacation rental or you think it's a vacation rental in your neighborhood, email him, and there's a vacation rental website that you can find where you can report them to make sure that they're registered the way that they're supposed to be. Then there was one other thing. Who in here is a District 4 resident? Okay. Wow. All District 4 presidents have been contacted by a new assistant in Ben's office. Her name is Alex. She was here today. What she's looking to do is sit down and have coffee with all District 4 neighborhood leaders so that she could get an understanding of the concerns in our neighborhood. So if you see that email, please respond to her and sit down and have a coffee or have a phone call, because she was really nice and she's just trying to understand what's important to us to get up to speed. That is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that on the website too, that thing?
This is all on the website. I put it under information for members. On the left, you'll see information for members, and if you click on it there.
All right. Thanks, Christine. Yeah, thank
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
The next thing that I know Colleen's going to cover, I'll just go ahead and start. There's a notice that's published on the website. The bylaws say when we have vacancies on the board, it has to be noticed a certain way, and it's a special election to fill the position. So the 2 positions that are open are the position of treasurer, which is pretty obvious, I think, what the treasurer does, and the second vice president. That's the person who coordinates the holiday party and getting the food here, cleaning up the food and everything. So if you think that you're interested in being a candidate, the description of the jobs, we try to do a pretty good job so you know what the expectations are. You can find those under information for members, and then you can let Colleen or myself know, or even Marilyn Mamano, but we're looking for people who are going to be proactive to try to keep us moving. That's it. Keep going.
No, keep going. Do the tree preservation, that'd be great, yeah.
Okay.
So when will the election take place?
Oh, I'm sorry, February 2020. It's February 11th, 2020. is when that special election is.
So folks need to notify by when? By the
As
next
soon
meeting?
as possible, really, as soon as possible. As soon as you think you're willing to do it, just let somebody know on.
What is the latest, a January meeting? Or-
Sure, that would be fine, but I mean, realistically, if it was a week before, this isn't running so tightly that we would have to shut somebody down. Urban Preservation Committee. Okay, so something else that we've been talking about a lot lately on this board is the importance of tree preservation in our city. And we all know that Ben Sorensen spearheaded meetings working on that tree preservation ordinance, and it keeps coming up, and it's important to our board. So what we talked about doing was establishing an urban preservation committee, and we thought that a good person to be the chair of that committee would be Brucey Cummings. The bylaws say that if we're going to have a committee, the general membership needs to vote on the formation of that committee. The chairperson of the committee, their first task would be to keep us up to speed on what's going on with the tree preservation ordinance.
So this is a voting item. So the proposal is that we form this committee, Urban Forestry, and we'd like to nominate or elect, or whatever the right verb is, Brucey Cummings to chair that committee. So we wanted to put it to the general membership for a vote. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, fantastic.
Let me ask a question. So if anybody is interested in joining that committee with Ms. Cummings, then you need to, it would probably be a good idea to reach out to Dennis Ulmer. Dennis is the chair of committees, so he kind of makes sure if a committee is formed, that committee is working the way that it's supposed to. So if you're interested in being a candidate, you should get with Dennis on that.
Thank you, and I'll take it from here. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Christina, wonderful. The 2020 meeting dates have been approved by the city as of this week, so they are either already up on the website or they will be soon. So we follow the same kind of legacy that we've always had. Monday nights are board meetings, and what are we at, the second Tuesday of the month, third Tuesday, whatever it is?
Second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday, we will continue. We had to shift 2 or 3 of the dates because of Jewish holidays, or, you know, coming after a Memorial Day or whatever, but they will be posted on the website soon, but we'll honor for the most part what we normally do. On deck for next month, we have Commissioner Glassman coming. So Christina just personally took care of making sure each commissioner and the mayor were coming to an upcoming meeting. So we talked District 4 tonight. We may have Ben come back when he's not tied up. But Commissioner Glassman and District 2 concerns and feedback will be provided next month. So if you have questions, please do as we normally do, which is submit them through the website. We're also going to be hearing from the Complete Counts Census 2020 Committee that kicks off in January. It's an important topic. The stormwater rate study, many of you have heard, stormwater rates are going to go up. That's the bottom line. So how it's going to happen, the methodology that's being used, that there will be a presentation on that. So that's what's on the dock for January. And there's I think the Neighborhood Recognition Committee is also going to come talk about what does being a recognized neighborhood mean? What are the requirements for recognized neighborhoods on an annual basis? That office is shifted within city, so Keith is going to come back next month and talk about that. Last piece of old business, Marilyn attended the P&Z board last month. She presented our observations of the comp plan. The Planning and Zoning Board did adopt the comp plan. There were some changes to the level of service, which we're not entirely pleased about. We haven't done an official vote at a board level yet, but Marilyn will come back next month and talk about this in greater detail. With that, I think that's it for the evening. Does anybody, oh, I know what I forgot. We normally don't do this, but anybody that has an event during December, a holiday party, a celebration, if you want to just briefly stand up and talk about it, we'd love to hear it, because I promised Abby we'd talk about her event. Betty, do you want to talk about your wonderful, wonderful, wonderful annual event?
That's Winter in the Park in Imperial Point. Is Friday evening at 6:30 to 8:30, and you're all welcome. We We have lots of things going on, activities, and we have hot chocolate and cookies. And
You've got Santa on a hayride. You've
Yeah.
got trains going around. You've got Kaylee dancers. You've got it all.
Yeah, we have dancers and we have a slide, and at the bottom of the slide, we have this contraption that's snow, and the children get off the slide and go in the snowflakes. And we
It's a
have
wonderful
train.
event. It really is. It, like
We have a
hundreds of
great
people.
Santa. It's a professional. This is the third
That's
year.
the kid out from the North Pole.
No, he's really, he has a group, it's called a professional Santa group, and he's excellent.
That's
So,
great.
If you have children and want to come to Winter in the Park, that's Friday night. And I see that it said, looked like it was supposed to rain, but
It's a full moon is what it is. That's what you gotta watch out for. So, and I just wanna, yeah, okay. So definitely make that. I went last year, it's incredible. And, you know, we're out supporting each other in the community. These events, these community events are just really remarkable. So I will see one in my neighborhood that's being hosted on Friday. It starts before yours, so you can go to this one and then go over to Imperial Point.
And I like just some newsletters on the table in the back.
Oh, and yeah, Imperial Point does a beautiful newsletter as well. Miracle on 13th Street is the celebration ribbon cutting of the opening of 5 new businesses. These are in older buildings that have been rehabbed and renovated, so not torn down, but renovated. So there's a jiu-jitsu place, a Buddha Pants place, a bakery, a deck on 13, which is tapas, and everything in the deck on 13 is reused. You know, all the furniture, everything is recycled. It's 4 to 9. She's rented 2 igloos. You know, you can go in and there's hot chocolate there as well. Cirque du Soleil dancers. The mayor is coming to Abby's and then to your event. So if you can make that Miracle on 13th Street on Friday evening from 4 to 9, Mary, you had another event.
Now, Coral Ridge every year has a children's holiday party. It's always the Saturday before Christmas, so that's the 21st. It's in George English Park. Everybody's welcome to come. It's we don't have snow next year, but we have a rock climbing wall. We have dueling slides.
Oh, wow.
We have pony rides.
We have you with that hat.
You'll recognize me. We have Santa, we have face painting, we've got goats and sheep. Last year we had ducks that got loose. We're not going to have the ducks again. And it's just fun. It's really kid-oriented. We chase ducks all over Bayview Drive. So, but if you have kids that would like to come, and we have hot dogs for free.
Any other events in December that anybody wants to
I
announce?
just wanted to mention
Yes.
something. If you ever drove 13th Street before this little shindig happened during the night, please drive during this week. They have done a great job, everything, I mean, we didn't have a light up 13, not anything like that, but it's really nicely decorated. You go like, is this the same street?
An anonymous donor has sponsored the lighting of 13th, like Sistrunk, like Las Olas, like the Galt, like many other places. So we actually, it looks like
Yeah,
a
and it
beautiful
just happened. I
corridor.
live near the neighborhood and I just by sheer coincidence, drove by and I was like,
Largely thanks to Abby as well. Christina and then Jim?
The council got an email regarding a January farmers market that's at the end of Las Olas near the beach. Is there anybody who knows anything about it?
We had a question.
It was a question.
A person asked for information about it. I don't know anything about it. Is there anybody here who's working with that?
I referred that question to Commissioner Glassman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jim?
There's not a lot of people left, but earlier, Colleen recognized the board, recognized all the presidents, and all the people in this room who've done work for the community and the city. I would like to say that Colleen has done an incredible job this year. An incredible job.
All right, I think that's it. Happy holidays, everybody. The meeting is now officially adjourned. Nice to end on that note. Thank you.
And one more, you get to take your dishes that you brought your food, please.
Yeah, take your food. Michael, whose is this?